Hare Krishna everyone, we're continuing to read The Science of Self-Realization, the book by His Divine Grace Srila A.C. Bhakti-Vedanta Swami Prabhupada. Chapter 7, Exploring the Spiritual Frontier, and this section is entitled Saintly Compassion. Today I shall speak to you about the glorification of the holy name of God. This was discussed between Maharaja Parikshit and Shukadeva Goswami in connection with a Brahmana, who was very fallen and addicted to all kinds of sinful activities, but was saved simply by chanting the holy name. This is found in the 6th canto of the Srimad Bhagavatam. The universal planetary systems are very nicely explained in the 5th canto of the Srimad Bhagavatam. Within the universe, there are some planets which are hellish. Actually, not only the Bhagavatam, but all religious scriptures contain descriptions of hell and heaven. In the Srimad Bhagavatam, you can find out where those hellish planets are and how distant they are from this planet, just as you can obtain information from modern astronomy. Astronomers have calculated how far the moon is from here and what the distance is between this planet and the sun. Similarly, the Bhagavatam contains descriptions of the hellish planets. We have experience of different atmospheric conditions even on this planet. In the western countries near the North Pole, the climate is different than in India, which is near the equator. Just as there are differences in atmosphere and living conditions on this planet, similarly, there are many planets which have different atmospheres and conditions of life. After hearing a description of the hellish planets from Shukadeva Goswami, Parikshit Maharaj said, Adhuneha Mahabhaga Yathaiva Narakannara Nanograyatananneyat Tanme Vyakyatum Arhasi. Quote, Sir, I have heard from you about the hellish planets. Men who are very sinful are sent to those planets. Unquote. Srimad Bhagavatam 6.1.6. Parikshit Maharaja is a devotee, a Vaishnava, and a Vaishnava always feels compassion for others' distress. He is very afflicted by the miseries of others. When Lord Jesus Christ presented himself, for instance, he was greatly afflicted by the miserable conditions of the people. Regardless of which country or sect they belong to, all Vaishnavas or devotees, any people who are God-conscious or Krishna-conscious, are thus compassionate. Therefore, to blaspheme a Vaishnava, a preacher of God's glories, is a great offense. Krishna, God, is never tolerant of offenses committed at the lotus feet of a Vaishnava. Kripam Buddhi. A Vaishnava is an ocean of mercy. Vanchakalpataru. Everyone has desires, but a Vaishnava can fulfill all desires. Kalpataru means desire tree. There's a tree in the spiritual world which is called a desire tree. In this material world, you get a particular type of fruit from a particular type of tree. But in Krishna Loka, as well as in all the Vaikuntha planets. All the trees are spiritual and will fulfill all your desires. That is described in the Brahma Samhita 5.29. Chintamani prakarasadma sukalpa vriksha. A Vaishnava is addressed as Mahabhaga, which means fortunate. One who becomes a Vaishnava and is God conscious is understood to be a greatly fortunate person. Chaitanya Mahaprabhu has explained that the living entities are rotating in different species of life, in different planetary systems all over the universe. A living entity can go anywhere, to hell or heaven, as he likes and as he prepares himself. There are many heavenly planets, many hellish planets, and many species of life. There are 8,400,000 species of life. The living entity is rotating, wandering through these species and creating bodies according to his mentality in the present life. As you sow, so shall you reap. Chaitanya Mahaprabhu says that out of all these numberless living entities who are traveling in the material world, one is fortunate, not everyone. If everyone were fortunate, they would all have taken to Krishna consciousness. It is being distributed freely everywhere. But why are people not taking it? Because they are unfortunate. Therefore, Chaitanya Mahaprabhu says that only those who are fortunate take to this Krishna consciousness. And they get hopeful life, pleasant life, blissful life, a life of knowledge. It is the duty of a Vaishnava to go door to door to make the unfortunate people fortunate. A Vaishnava thinks, how can these people be delivered from their hellish life? That was Parikshit Maharaja's inquiry. Sir, he said, you have described that on account of one's sinful activities, one is put into a hellish condition of life, or in a hellish planetary system. Now, what are the counter methods by which such persons can be saved? This is the question. When a Vaishnava comes, when God himself comes, or when God's Son or his very confidential devotees come, their only mission is to save the sinful men who are suffering. They have knowledge of how to do this. When Prahlada Maharaj met Nrisimhadeva, he said, Naivo dvije paraduratyaya vaitaranyas tvadvirya gayana mahamrita magna chitta shochetato vimukacheta sa indriyartha maya sukhaya bharamudvahato vimudhan. My dear Lord, Prahlad says, I'm not very anxious for my own deliverance. Srimad Bhagavatam 7.9.43. Mayavadi philosophers are very careful that their personal salvation is not interrupted. They think, if I go to preach in association with others, I may fall down. and my realization will be finished. Therefore, they do not come. Only the Vaishnavas come at the risk of fall down, but they do not fall down. They may even go to hell to deliver the conditioned souls. This is Prahlad Maharaja's mission. He says, Naivo dvije. I am not very anxious about living in this material world. Prahlada Maharaja says further, I have no anxiety for myself, because somehow or other I have been trained to be always Krishna conscious. Because he is Krishna conscious, he is confident that in his next life he is going to Krishna. It is stated in the Bhagavad Gita that if one executes the Krishna conscious regulative principles carefully, it is certain that he will reach the supreme destination in his next life. Prahlad Maharaj continues, there is only one source of anxiety for me. Just see, although he had no anxiety for himself, he still had anxiety. He says, Shochetato vimukha chetasaha. I am anxious for those persons who are not Krishna conscious. That is my anxiety. For myself, I have no anxiety, but I am thinking of those who are not Krishna conscious. Unquote. Why aren't they Krishna conscious? Maya sukhaya bharam udvahato vimudhan. These rascals have created a humbug civilization for temporary happiness. Srimad Bhagavatam 7.9.43. Maya sukhaya. Actually, this is a fact. We have a humbug civilization. So many cars are being manufactured every year, and for that purpose so many roads have to be excavated and prepared. This creates problem after problem. Therefore it is Maya Sukhaya, illusory happiness. And yet we are trying to be happy in this way. We are trying to manufacture some way to be happy, but this only creates other problems. In your country, you have the greatest number of cars, but that does not solve any problems. You have manufactured cars to help solve the problems of life, but I have experienced that this also creates more problems. When my disciple Dayananda wanted to take me to a doctor in Los Angeles, I had to take the trouble to travel 30 miles before I could even consult the doctor. Once you create cars, then you must travel 30 or 40 miles to meet your friends. You can fly from New York to Boston in 1 hour, but it takes even longer than that just to get to the airport. This situation is called Maya Sukhaya. Maya means false, illusory. We are trying to create some very comfortable situation, but we have created another uncomfortable situation. This is the way of the material world. If we are not satisfied by the natural comforts offered by God and nature, and we want to create artificial comforts, then we have to create some discomfort also. Most people do not know that. They think they are creating a very comfortable situation, but actually they are traveling 50 miles to go to the office to earn a livelihood and 50 miles to come back. Because of such conditions, Prahlad Maharaj says that these Vimudhans, these materialistic persons, these rascals, have created an unnecessary burden on themselves, simply for temporary happiness. Vimudhan maya sukhaya bharam udvahato. Therefore, in Vedic civilization, it is recommended that one free himself from material life, take sannyas, the renounced order of life, and prosecute spiritual life with absolutely no anxiety. If one can execute Krishna consciousness in family life, that is very good. Bhakti-Vinoda Thakur was a family man, a magistrate, and still, he executed devotional service so nicely. Dhruva Maharaj and Prahlad Maharaj were grihasthas, householders. But they trained themselves in such a way that even as householders, they were faced with no interruption in their service. Therefore, Prahlad Maharaj says, I have learned the art of always remaining in Krishna consciousness. What is that art? Tvadvirya gayana mahamrita magna chitta. Srimad Bhagavatam 7.9.43. Simply glorifying the victorious activities and pastimes of the Lord. Virya means very heroic. Krishna's activities are heroic. You can read about them in Krishna, the Supreme Personality of Godhead. It's a book. It's a summary study of 10th canto of Srimad Bhagavatam. Krishna's name, his fame, his activities, his associates, and all other things related to him are heroic. Prahlad Maharaj says in this connection, quote, I am certain that wherever I go, I can glorify your heroic activities and be safe. There is no question of my falling down, but I am simply anxious for these persons who have created a type of civilization in which they are always busy working hard. I'm thinking of them. Unquote. Okay, we're going to stop here for today. Tomorrow we shall continue to read how Vaishnavas, saintly persons and sages are very interested in helping others. Jai. So thank you so much for tuning in today. The link to this book is in the description. Check out our website shravanamdiaries.com and we shall see you tomorrow. Hare Krishna.